AI wants more, and you need more. You need to connect all the dots across channels to be there. Most of the time, you don't need 100% score. You end up burning your resources. It's not important to achieve the maximum score. You need to think green, you need to optimize, but also in terms of use less resources. SEO is not dead. It needs to be central. It's always about evolution, but essentially because the search is evolving, because the environment is evolving, we need to adapt. The key word here is like users first. Put simply, we are chasing Google in our case when we discuss SEO, but we are chasing all the verticals and social media platform because at the end of the day, we are trying to understand how to appear there and understand what's needed. Clients, businesses can use AI to do the BAU stuff, the executional stuff more and more faster and maybe better. The key is be clever, be smart. So be better and be human.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search with Candour. I am your host, as always, Jack Chambers Ward, and this is the podcast where I interview the best and brightest minds across SEO and digital marketing. This week I am joined by Manuel Madeddu, and we're talking all about having a holistic approach to web performance. I think it's an interesting conversation, particularly to have now as the era of AI search and LLMs is ever looming around us, as I'm sure you know. And I think it's a particularly interesting conversation because Manuel has some great ideas about how to recontextualize things like core web vitals and page load speed and so many of those other metrics we talk about in terms of web performance and why they're relevant and why you need to be thinking about them in 2025. Of course, before we get to my conversation with Manuel, I would hugely appreciate if you like and subscribe to us here on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you always know when new episodes are released. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us, hopefully 5 stars out of 5 stars, and leave a comment down below as well. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you are listening to podcasts, you can also leave ratings, reviews, comments and things like that as well, and they usually make their way to me either way. If you have any topics or guests or feedback or anything like that you'd like to hear, then please do let me know in the comments down below, and be in touch basically. Without any further ado, here is my conversation with Manuel Madeddu, all about holistic web performance. My guest this week has worked in digital marketing for over 15 years. You may recognize him from his appearances speaking at Brighton SEO, for example, or his appearance on the Tech SEO podcast, or SEO in 2025, where we actually crossed over and crossed paths on the live stream. He is a founder and SEO consultant at Zero Due Design and the SEO account director at Publicis Group. He also has a degree in mechatronics, so you're basically the Iron Man of SEO, right, Manu? That's how that works? I think that's how that works.
Yeah, a nice introduction, so straight to the point. But yeah, I had that a lot, especially before, because now my hair, I'm becoming more Dot on Doom nowadays.
Nice. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
I
you've still got
studied
the Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom vibes as well,
appearance.
right?
I shaved a bit, but yeah, still have that. No, exactly. I come from scientific, or I did study mechatronics, which is essentially robotics applied to mechanical engineering. So my background is engineering, so doing a lot of mechanical studies and building construction, and then since I was studying my uni times, I was also keen to explore, for example, AI and coding. And that's why I think I decided to then, later in years, to then do SEO, because it's ever evolving. And then I think it gives me the right balance between technical. I mean, I'm not actually building stuff, with iron stuff, but then explore coding and, explore automation, explore, artificial intelligence. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not quite the same, but I have an astrophysics degree. So I come from a similar kind of scientific background. And I think you're totally right. You find a lot of people who end up in SEO from that kind of background. There's a lot of the similar kind of like puzzle solving, problem solving kind of stuff. Right? There's a lot of like going through things logistically and logically as well. And for me, I think there's a lot of transferable skills from what you learn, to question everything in science, right? You learn how to test things and experiment and all that kind of stuff. I know we talk a lot about SEO testing and experimentation and how important that is and everything like that. And I think that ties really nicely into the topic we're going to talk about, right? And I love the way you brought the topic about holistic approach to web performance being just feels like a broad topic, but I think it's going to be a really nice kind of conversation to set everything up, if that makes sense. Because I feel like pretty much the theme of last year of the entire podcast was us SEOs need to stop working in silos, and we need to
Yes.
understand a broader concept of other teams, digital marketing, other marketing teams, other departments, and all that kind of stuff. I think that ties really well in the topic here. So I guess I'll kick things off and hand things over to you of why do you think a holistic approach is important? Why was it the topic you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I've got the perfect connection trait because essentially my first Brighton SEO talk, it was exactly on this. So avoiding to work in silos, and exactly as you said, I was trying to bridge the gap between my scientific studies and then what I was doing. So literally, my first talk was from atom to stars, and avoid to work in silos, especially in digital marketing. So also covering your astrophysics and motions, but uh, you know, yeah, I mean, it was important like 15, 20 years ago when we started to approach marketing. Avoid working in silos because at the end of the day, what's important in what we do in marketing and then in SEO more specifically. But it is about understanding, what's more important by checking the broader view, the whole perspective, and then try to connect the dot and try to understand what's really key to reach.
Mm.
What are your goals? What's the specific solution to what you are discussing and try to fix and face? I think that's the key point. And when it comes to nowadays, it's even more important because in the meantime, technology evolved. So if 15 years ago was important to discuss, search engine marketing, not only SEO, but connecting all the dots for all the verticals for what you do online to then succeed. It's even more important now because now it's the technology, it's AI being able to connect the dots and really not just sticking to website, but connecting the dots to understand how good you are and then to give you visibility. So yes, maybe in the last 10, 15 years, we've been focusing in doing, metadata, a lot of Excel stuff, because at the end of the day, that's what you needed to do, a lot of audits to understand what to do. But now that's not enough because it's not enough for you to succeed because AI wants more and you need more. You need to connect all the dots across channels to be there. And I think that's the starting point of the holistic approach and why it's also important for web performance. So web performance, it's very specific. So by web performance, I have a very technical background in SEO. So I started to essentially I launched when I came to the UK like 15 years ago. I decided to work with my partner, and I founded my small agency. She was a graphic designer, and I loved coding. And I said, okay, why don't we start doing websites, and you do all the graphic design stuff? So we were trying to do a bit of everything, and then as soon as you start launching a website for a client, then you have those nice clients that, hey, I want to be in first page. So you start doing SEO, you start exploring, black hat
Yep.
techniques and all of that. Then it's less, and then to try, and then yeah. But mainly, I always focus on technical SEO, as a starting point because I really had that condition of knowing how to build a website and what was important to technically have that as a foundation to there be ranking and so on. Nowadays, is not enough. One, as a technical SEO specialist, I mean, I'm doing more now, but I'm really very obsessed about technical conversation and really fussy about technical. When I see people over obsessing about page speed, I always stress out like, yes, it is important, but you have to be careful because most of the time you don't need 100% score. It's not, I mean, you end up burning your resources, your also brain space, like, it's not important to achieve the maximum score. It's important to understand what you need to achieve to then succeed. And to be there, you need an holistic approach, which is what we're discussing today. Essentially, you need to evaluate all the other factors that are correlated and they're needed for you to understand what's important. And it comes to, technology advancement. First of all, yeah, it's nice to see the recommendation on page speed, but then which CMS you're using, what the devs can do, like technically, but also other factors like in terms of the business, what's the goal? So it's been
Mm.
helping you in converting more. Yes, no, maybe, maybe a slower site, but more visual, more engaging. It's what you need. So maybe a slower site, it's more successful. It depends. Then nowadays, also more and more important to assess and discuss sustainability, which is also a major conversation. So yes, fair enough. Your website is fast. You use X technology, X, Y, Z, but what's the price of it? So which server you're using, which resources are needed to run everything, and maybe you're using a lot of resources that are producing a lot of carbon footprint. So you need to think green, you need to optimize, but also in terms of, use less resources. Um, yeah, so that's the holistic approach, like considering all the elements and not only over obsessing about page speed and percent score, because one, you end up killing yourself, and the devs will hate you. Two, you don't achieve, it's not what you need.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's us as SEOs, we get into a bad habit of kind of either focusing on one thing and getting that as like that's the thing we need to fix right now. Like you said, core web vitals, page speed, all that kind of stuff being needs to be 100%. And oftentimes, like you said, you can be annoying the devs or using too many resources or whatever it is. Actually getting it from 80 to 90 is not going to be worth the time, the investment, the money, all that kind of stuff. When actually 80 is still pretty good and will probably serve you better than most other websites. And we know like how much of a difference is that actually going to make to the user experience, to your rankings, all this other kind of stuff, right? We can get into that habit of really focusing on one thing and treating it like this is the most important thing. Devs, you need to sort this out right now, forgetting that they have a million other jobs to do as well.
Yeah, exactly. But also, as you said, I mean, when you start digging a lot more, more and more, so yes, you start maybe using the more junior you are, essentially you start using what's out there. So you start using page speed, then you jump on other more specific tool like web page test, blah blah blah. So you start investigating using, better tools to dig more. But then at the end of the day, as you said, 80% score. So technically, if you dig more, it's Google themselves. They're telling you the 70% percentile of website globally, they see it below 75, 80% score. So essentially just one third, one fourth globally of sites are exceeding 90%. It's just the top of diamond, at the top of the mountain. So and maybe you don't really need that because it's not helping you to convert.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's that prioritization of stuff as well, right? Like you said, even with the sustainability side of things, thinking about literally how much energy goes into it and the money and the time and investment as well. I know I did an episode, I think it was late last year, with Matt Tutt talking about how to basically host your website and be greener about it, and how to build websites that are greener and all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of us, there's obviously the big conversation about AI and LLMs and the environmental stuff behind that, but it is a broader conversation about the internet as a whole. And I think credit to a lot of hosting sites and companies, there is a very easy way to get, renewable energy sources for your website hosting and things like that. And even things like page speed and loading can help with that in that process as well. It's not just about, loading things faster and rankings. It can actually also be you're literally using less resources in terms of server speed and stuff, right?
Exactly, and that's the holistic approach. That's a priority because you need to check the broader picture. You need to zoom out and consider all the elements.
Mm.
So as you said, it's not just speed; it's also the resources needed for the server to run. But it's also so what is web performance? It's like just speed. I know it's the broader picture. So it's also the number of dead pages. I call them like zombie pages. So essentially, pages that are floating around the web, but they're not actually meaningful or useful. The 90% of the pages online are like this, like at dead pages, not resisting traffic, and those pages cost energy, so they have a carbon footprint impact. So it's all of this. So refining all of this, keeping the website clean, not just because of web performance and speed and performance in general, but also because of the impact, on our planet.
Yeah,
For example,
100%.
when we discuss sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said, as we're seeing this evolution of search that is kind of unavoidable at the moment, we're talking about LLMs and AI mode and ChatGPT search and all this kind of stuff, right? Do you think this kind of holistic approach is even more important than it was? You mentioned like 10, 15 years ago, right? That when we were first talking about, core web vitals and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that is now more important than ever? Because it certainly feels that way to me, but I don't want to be answering the question
No,
for you.
it is. It is. I mean, first of all, I mean, you might well know we are both SEOs. We both work in marketing. So this conversation is overwhelming. So literally, I end up sharing articles and news with colleagues at 10, 11 p.m. in the evening because every day you've
Hmm.
got something more. It's just, it's fast paced. It's progressing a lot. But I think the main point is, as I said initially, so that technology is a lot more powerful. So it's able now to pick every single element and connect the dots and reasoning like closer to how a human would do, to then understand what's the value of what you are showing up and presenting. And meaning, back in the day, it was important to try to have an holistic view in terms of putting together like a strong strategy, but it was kind of a plus, because at the end of the day, if you are working on SEO and improving your SEO performance, the client was happy. If you work on PPC and provide a good number for PPC, the client was happy. Now it's not enough, because I mean, I didn't want to go in zero-click search, but what you see in search engines is different. So it's not the content you have on this website anymore, and the search engines are not driving traffic to the website anymore. It's something else. And to appear at the top of the search engines, to essentially be there for people know you, you need other elements. And us as marketers, as SEOs, we are all discussing what these elements are. But I had also conversation with Google and themselves, and I mean, long story short, they cannot confirm anything, because even the algorithm they use, it's that complex that they cannot give you a confirmation of which are the KPIs to monitor, and also which are the elements for you to rank there. You can get that by using tools and case study industry. For example, if we speak about AI overviews, it seems like 20%, 21% of the sources, it comes from YouTube. Then there is LinkedIn, and second most source used source then is Reddit, Quora. But just by discussing this, you see how it's important to be there. So it's not just about optimizing the website, about having a fast website, or fully optimized metadata, which is something funny I always discuss. Like, you don't need metadata anymore. You need for AI overview, but that's not a discussion. But I mean, classic SEO is dead, but SEO is not dead. It needs to be central. It is evolving. It's always about evolution. But essentially, because the search is evolving, because the environment is evolving, we need to adapt. And because search engines are able to provide answer, just not based on the content you have on the website also, but they take the elements from everywhere. And you need to connect the element everywhere to be visible in search engines. But then you have AI search, you have voice search more and more. So, people are using more other ways to find information.
Yeah, definitely. There's that, again, big conversation about search
Yeah.
everywhere, and that nature of, again, spoke to Ashley Liddell about search everywhere a little while ago, and it was that kind of big conversation about people using search, people using LLMs, people using other ways of searching and finding content. And you're totally right. If you find something that is an industry defined by YouTube content, by video content, or defined by social content, I find a lot of conversations I'm having with clients at the moment are not, like you said, the traditional SEO thing being like, oh, just, write an informational blog post, create a nice hub and spoke, create pillar content, all the traditional stuff that has been, for want of a better phrase, working pretty well for the last 15, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But now, like you said, it feels like you kind of need to zoom out a bit outside of not just Google, but search engines in general, and
Everything.
get a bigger picture of everything.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's interesting. That's cool. As someone who creates a lot of video content, like this podcast that does
Exactly.
a lot of audio content, like
Yeah.
that's exciting for me. I consume a lot of video content as well. I'm always watching YouTube and watching social stuff as well.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that web performance stuff, like how much of that does that factor into your thought process when you're thinking about, obviously, the user experience on mobile and desktop? That I feel that's kind of a given these days, right? Everybody is kind of aware that the
Yeah.
vast majority of browsing is done on mobile. But when you're thinking about how people can discover your site and reach your site, does that factor into your strategy as well when it comes to how the website is performing, how fast it is? Because I feel like, to me, if you see a website that looks old and feels old, I kind of lose a bit of faith, because I'm,
Yeah.
much like you, man. I'm pretty techie, right?
Yeah.
We work in this industry for a reason. I
Yeah.
want to see something that feels modern and responsive.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think that the key word here is like users first. So essentially, you
Mm,
need to always focus. So put simply, we are chasing Google in our case when we discuss SEO, but we are chasing all the verticals and social media platform, because at the end of the day, we are trying to understand how to appear there and understand what's needed. But at the end of the day, they just try to follow what people are consuming, the way that people are consuming the different information, and the best way for them to then consume it. As you said, you're doing a lot of videos. I mean, you do podcasts and stuff, and that's what people want. They want bite-sized type of format. They want videos more than long-form content. And when it comes to web performance, yeah, it's also there. So you need to make sure, again, you don't need to over obsess about speed, because you can have a very poor content page, like maybe a website that's been built in the 80s or 90s. So it's like, just text. Yeah, it's very fast, but then it doesn't have a video. So it doesn't have what user want to see. And it doesn't have, at the end of the day, just to close the loop, what AI reviews and AI search want to see, because that's the final goal. So AI is trying to find and present what people want to see. Um, so meaning, yeah, I mean, more and more visuals and media formats are required when you create content. They need to be embedded, most likely above the fold. So it's the priority content you must have. But then you need to make sure the way they're rendered, that the layout is not shifting. So all the cover vitals, technically, must be met and be good. But then also the users must find the information quick and fast and be satisfied. So there is an element of ensuring, so meeting connected gaps again, the holistic approach, making sure that the user find quickly what they want to find as a priority, and all the elements are also there for then AI assistance, AI search, and all the technology to find the information. And this goes to renderability, for example. Nowadays, things like AI search, AIO, AI assistant, they're still not able to fully render, if not render at all, JavaScript. So it's essential you present all the information in a way that it can be read and then it can be presented. And this goes to web performance. So yes, it's good to have a video, but then you make sure you also have schema markup, and other elements in the page to then be sure, that the content is being read.
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So I think, I guess if we're thinking about the holistic approach, what are the kind of things you look for to measure? Like, what are the metrics that matter? How do you define success? That kind of thing, right? We've covered quite a few of them already. We kind of talked about
Yeah.
core web vitals, page load speed. There's multiple different things within core web vitals, responsiveness, all that kind of stuff. To you, what are those important ones that you kind of define success when you're looking at it with clients and things like that?
Yeah, I'll give you a classic SEO answer. I think it depends. If you want to focus on technical elements, so if you want to say to see like industry studies and reports, for example, SEMrush came out in 2024 with the ranking factor study. And if you want to see which elements are needed, for example, to rank high, in SERPs, like blue links, but essentially page experience and experience factors were like 26 in the list of all the factors. So really content and how renderability, accessibility are way more important, for you to rank there for AI bots and AI search to then assess your content. But then when it comes to specifically web performance KPIs, if you want to rank, they said essentially FID, first input delay, and total blocking time are the main ones that are helping you to rank, which is technically a first thing. So if you want to rank better, there are some specific technical elements that you need to ensure that they're good. But then I would say, as we were saying, users first. So what's important for the users? I think if a page, yes, is nice, it's got a nice video, but it takes 5 seconds to load, then I think also the LCP, the loading time overall, it's key in terms of technically web performance. But then really, again, in terms of an holistic approach, you then need to understand what's important, and maybe you need to A/B test. You need to do a bit of CRO experimentation in the specific case, because maybe yes, your page is low, but because you have a huge nice video the user are keen to play with, and then it's converting. So I would say, from a business perspective, I would say conversion rate, engagement, and maybe RAM metrics are important. On a technical perspective, I would say page load, definitely. Did
Yeah,
you
I
go?
think
Did you go too specific, maybe? But no.
no, not at all, not at all. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, mate. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of the, like you said, we end up either, feels like, zooming out too much and like just saying core web vitals and not being specific about it and not actually giving actionable recommendations, right? Or we go too far into it and just think about one specific thing. So again, I think this is kind of like the whole point of this conversation, right? Is finding that sweet spot between the two and understanding which ones matter most, prioritizing those, understanding where to use budget and resources and all that kind of stuff. And I totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of that time spent on page conversion rate stuff that really is effective with that stuff. You mentioned the SEMrush study being a brilliant example of that. There have been plenty of studies where just the slightest tweak in, for me, the one I always notice is CLS, cumulative layout shift.
yeah,
Like the amount of times, even if it's not the red flag example Google always use of you tried to cancel but you accidentally check out, which is the worst case
yeah,
scenario thing, right? Is that
yeah,
Google always use an example.
hmm
But I have noticed it so many times when I'm trying to browse or use a navigation or whatever, even not on e-commerce sites, just other stuff, and things will load around it. And it's one of the things I've talked to my non-SEO friends about most, because they'll be like, "Oh, you know about websites," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay, yeah, kind of." Like, so when it loads and then everything moves and I click on the wrong thing, I'm like, "Aha, I know the name for that thing."
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that is a thing. Like you said, it's user first, right? It's such a
Exactly.
first-hand experience.
Yeah, that's the point. But it depends on what you're focusing on. Because if you are trying to essentially bring to the business more conversion, more revenue, then it depends. Then LCP might be your first metrics. But it depends, because as you said, CLS. So if you as a user you see a lot of shifts in the content, you might start thinking this is a poor brand. So you start losing trust in the business as well. So you might not convert as well. So it really depends. But at the end of the day, the cover vitals are a protocol being put in place by Google to try to get there. So it's not about measuring, but it's about understanding what's really important for the users from a user point of view, to then get a good impression of the website in terms of interactivity, in terms of page load, in terms of. So I would say cover vitals, yes, from a technical perspective, are the key KPIs, but then it depends on what you are trying to optimize and achieve. Um,
Yeah,
so in the majority of our conversations, so if conversion, is the key main factor, because we've got client paying and you want to lead to drive more leads, then you need to understand what's driving, what can drive more conversion. So as you said, maybe you have a website, you put a cookie banner, then you have a lot of CLS, and then users are going away because the site sucks. Then the
yeah.
CLS is a major factor.
Yeah, I've had it so often where having that kind of conversation with the client, obviously recent cookie management stuff and lots of CMP we're having to deal with um, lots of extra data regulations and things that are happening. And like you said, having that conversation, like it's going to affect if you don't do this right. We need to do it this way to make sure it doesn't affect this, especially with e-commerce websites. Like you said,
Yeah,
with when conversion is such an important factor in there.
yeah,
For me, having that kind of conversation and opening it as this is a holistic approach kind of conversation with clients, because again, I think we can often get into our own little kind of bubble of SEO and be like, you and I, man, who have worked in SEO for a while, we know
yeah,
to have this conversation with each other. We can just use the CLS, LCP, FID, just kind of all
yeah,
the abbreviations and stuff, right? But having that ability to communicate that and why it matters to clients, for me, can be as important as actually
yeah.
doing the stuff and actually making sure it gets done.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's very important, as you said, because that's the holistic approach. So if you think about regulated markets, so if you're working on I don't know, financial sites, or alcohol or tobacco, medical, you've got a lot of regulations. So or maybe if if the business is highly competitive, then they want to put a paywall, just to avoid showing prices, or maybe because you've got a age restriction. Well, your
Mm.
cover viral might be bad because you've got the paywall, you've got a blocker there, you've got a pop-up, but they must use it by law. So that's the holistic approach. Yes, if you're technical people, you go to the dev, say, hey, the CLS sucks, but yeah, but why it sucks? We must have it. So there is no way around it. And then what to do? So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. again, having that communication between different departments, like understanding where the developers are in their processes and their ticket queue and all that kind of stuff, but also understanding what the priorities of the stakeholders are and where that comes into it. Like, is it affecting traffic and revenue and conversions, or is it just affecting something else that maybe doesn't matter as much? And
Yeah,
being able to balance those things and communicate both, I think, is again really key to having this kind of conversation. And for me, when you come around and look at that kind of almost like the selling point of a holistic approach, that's where it kind of comes in those conversations. Like, this includes everything, this brings everything together, this is
yeah,
why this matters from a user first perspective. I'm getting my words out.
yeah,
User first perspective, not quite the right word, but like I said, I find a lot of that stuff, as much as the technical side of things, Core Web Vitals sounds very technical and intimidating. When you can demonstrate it or show it and explain it to people, like, that thing where the last thing you actually want to click loads, and it's like, that's largest contentful paint, that's the largest thing
yeah,
that needs to load right at the end.
yeah.
Like, oh right, yeah, that totally makes sense. And you can reframe very like technical things into a way that people can understand and process.
Yeah, yeah. I guess if you want to extend the meaning of holistic approach even to that, it's also in terms of communication, I think, because as you said,
Mm.
if you are a technical minded person, and then you have to have very technical conversation with devs, yeah, you might go for it. But you're also speaker. I being a speaker myself. So when you present stuff, also when you report to senior stakeholders, then you need to simplify. So the less the better, and the holistic approach will be about understanding how you need to present things to reach the target, but also presenting in a way that is useful and understandable to people. So again, I would describe maybe the holistic approach to try to connect all the dots also in communication in this case, because
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I think there's also, I guess, like long-term monitoring is always a thing I think about when it comes to that sort of thing. 'Cause I think we all get, again, I'm saying us as SEOs get so guilty. We're like, I from enough experience now to see that this is a real thing, where we kind of get stuck in, I've done it once and that's it kind of thing. Like, problem solved, tick Core Web Vitals and page load
uh,
speed off, and off you move on to the next thing. But as you said earlier, technology is always evolving, right? CMSs get updated. You might want to shift to a different CMS or whatever it is. Things change when it comes to AI crawlers and LLM powered crawlers versus Google crawlers versus Bing, all this kind of stuff. For me, I think actually keeping an eye on it long term can be just as important as getting it right in the early stages. Are there any approaches you have, or any like tools that you use to kind of keep an eye on it long term and keep that process going, so it doesn't just kind of reset back to square one after a couple of years or something like that?
yeah, no, I mean it's really important because they say it comes from the technology. So I mean, put simply, if you discuss search engines or AI assistant bots, and the technology out there is changing, so you need to monitor what's happening to try to understand what's hitting your website and how to behave, for example. But also, back in the day, in terms of content strategy, you were maybe planning, in 12 months time, if not less often, to do a content refresh, because it's good to maybe resurface evergreen content or maybe merge and do a bit going up. Nowadays, it's more and more important to put in the strategies a more frequent refresh, because AI is coming more often to the website and is evaluating more often the website. So maybe you need to refresh content every month, every 3 months. So and then it's key to monitor all of that. One, for the technology, and also, as you said, CMSs are changing often. In all my recent conversation with all the accounts I'm in, and clients I'm discussing stuff with, migration are something they're doing more and more. They're migrating to a more better CMS. They're discussing headless CMSs, better performance, better management. So yeah, you need to. So if you fix a website today, maybe in a month's time, maybe in a year time, I know, not maybe, surely things change. So you need to keep monitoring. uh, how to do it. I mean, there are different tools, Jack. I mean, I know you're aware it depends. So there are a lot of tools you can use in terms of, I mean, technical foundation, crawling, crowd crawling, cover vitals. I tend to put together my own script so that we benchmark and monitor all the specific pages for cover vitals and cracks and reporting on speed. But then log file analysis is also key. So if you
Mm,
use tools like Botify, for example, or even Luma, to have, I mean, you probably don't need to check this monthly, but I think it's worth checking maybe quarterly or every 6 months to see how AI bots are hitting your website and what you have to do. For example, so yeah, constant monitoring. I mean, I think constant monitoring in SEO and marketing is key. I mean, it's paramount per se. But under this perspective for what we're discussing, it's also key. So it's not that once you fix everything. I mean, one, you cannot always fix everything. I mean, out of a tech audit or a speed audit, you're lucky if you manage to fix 5%, 10% of the stuff, because again, holistic approach. You need to see what the devs can do. You need to see the technology, the server, the CDN. So it's a lot of factors. So you need to realistically understand what you need to fix. So there are always things you need to fix after. Plus, even the things that you fix, I don't know, if you're working on international websites, maybe you fix one market, but then they start having a lot of huge campaigns, so a lot of images, a lot of
mm.
videos. So performance changes. You need to monitor.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I guess when you're thinking about that, the multi-pronged approach, the holistic approach, how much do you factor in, like you mentioned your partner being a designer and things like that, the actual design, the page load speed, the performance, the functionality, all that kind of stuff? How do you kind of balance all of that stuff? And to give you some context, I had a conversation about this very topic of balancing UX and SEO and all that kind of stuff
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago. There's always, for me, going to be a compromise somewhere, right? Somebody's going to lose out on something. You can't necessarily always have both. How do you kind of prioritize those aspects of a, like we said, a modern, nice looking website, and also loading well, and also performing well, and being able to be crawled and indexed and stuff, right?
yeah. So as an SEO, as a technical person, we're always pushed to optimize again cover vitals to the max. So say, prioritizing hero images, banner, carousel, LCP elements, and so on. So minimize images, put all the image size specifically, but simply maybe one, it's something that the devs cannot do because of the CMS. Two, maybe you don't need to optimize, because even if a page is lower but it's presenting a nice video with nice click to action, with nice interactions, then maybe it's leading more engagement and it's leading more conversions. I think the balance is, that's the other approach. I think from your point of view, you can give your input. So as an SEO, as a technical person, you need to push and optimize. But then CRO and design, the product team comes in place and they say, actually, this cannot be done. What usually happens is, okay, let's check data. So we start A/B testing and see what's best to do. and yeah, until you reach a balance.
Yeah, I think that, again, coming around to what we said half an hour ago, was about testing stuff, right? I think
Yeah,
that's where it comes in. And I'm always hesitant to make those kind of big decisions, and again, potentially piss off another department if
yeah,
you're telling them, actually, no, designer people, no, it shouldn't look like that, or no,
yeah,
dev, sorry, it needs to be this way in order to be, fully crawlable, or whatever it is. I think
yeah,
there is a lot of good ways of doing that, and being able to test it and almost like soften that blow of, like, let's see how it goes, let's test it.
yeah,
If it doesn't work, fair enough, we can roll it back, rather than let's go ahead and just push forward with no data to back you up, right?
yeah. I think prioritization is key. So one, again, I think the ideal process would be, from your specific verticals, you need to specify what's needed ideally as best practice. Then you need to have a broader conversation with all the other channels and understand really what you can do. And then you need to either test or monitor. So, to find the right spot, the soft spot, the right balance. But yeah, there might be some elements that are key. So, I mean, if a page is not rendered, then yeah, I mean, big flag. If you don't have H1s, I mean, maybe it's lower. When it comes to speed, yeah, as said, maybe CLS. Okay, you have a high CLS because you don't have the sizes and the image element. Who cares? Because the users are not even noticing that they're seeing a video, they're seeing an image, they're happy, they buy, happy days. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, it's that, back to that user first conversation, right? It's back round to framing that as the key driving factor behind so many other things. And again, I think we do this a lot, and to credit to the industry, I think we're definitely moving in this direction to more of an intent driven, more user driven kind of conversations,
Yeah.
moving away from a lot of the basic metric stuff of, oh, it's just keywords, oh, it's just numbers, all that kind of stuff. Actually thinking
No.
about how does that affect the experience of the user, for sure.
Exactly. This is coming from Google. One specific on web performance. So, I mean, I guess I'm sure you've been following, but, all the latest update, we've been discussing Cover Vitals and mobile first since, I don't know, 2016,
Yeah,
2010.
yeah.
It's been just lately. They finalized the mobile first. They perfection the IMP. They essentially are focusing more on user experience and interactivity. So this is coming because, yeah, user first. The experience is really more important, given also the technology is evolving. But plus, I'm also thinking, back in the day, maybe also on your experience, but CRO, it was really UX and user experience and CRO were part of SEO. So you as an SEO, because you are building a website or try to optimize, then you are also thinking about call to actions and buttons and what to prioritize, and also because you were trying to optimize speed, then you were trying to prioritize the elements. Now there are different teams. So because CRO is becoming a lot more complex, and it's usually about testing, then you must discuss things with SEOs. So it's two teams. They need to work together, but because it's so complex, you need to align.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing that kind of just sparked in my head there, the thing we haven't really talked about, and I think, funnily enough, there's going to be a big discussion about next week at time of recording, but a few weeks ago at time of release. Accessibility is a big part of this as well, right? The European Accessibility Act is launching at
Yes.
the end of June. We're currently recording towards the end of June, but it will be July, if not August, by the time this episode comes out. So
Mhm.
hopefully, folks out there, you will already be knowing about this. When does that kind of factor into your process as well, Manu? Do you go into that with that as part of that initial conversation? We mentioned, the design and the speed and stuff like that. I think a lot of that already factors into the accessibility conversation, and I think a lot of people don't realize it
No,
factors
the
into the accessibility conversation, right?
No, it doesn't. So, I mean, put simply, when I was doing the wider, full in-depth technical audit, I always been covering accessibility, but it always felt like an extra because, I don't know, adding the alt text in the images. I mean, make sure you can navigate the menu with just the keyboards. So, it was sounding nice, but one of those things that you discuss as best practice, but then you don't really push to developers. Then it was becoming major when, and in all the accounts where multiple teams were involved. So when designers were involved, when CRO was involved, when SEO were involved, then we were specifically discussing accessibility because this was coming by law. Because maybe I was working on a website for whiskeys. In America, they needed to be compliant to the ADA regulations.
Mm.
Hence, accessibility was a key factor to then launch the website because otherwise there was no way to go live. Um, Under a performance point of view, I think, yeah, it's becoming more important because, again, user first. So essentially, uh, now you need to make sure the content is being used and is accessible, not only because of the text and the copy, the search engine can see, but across multiple devices. So again, it becomes a lot wider conversation, and legislation must ensure you've got the elements to ensure the devices can read the content to then reach a wider audience. So it's all connected, but if you work in silos, you don't see it. You then need to discuss, across the board with different channels because the designers might be more aware about the regulation than you as an SEO, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I'm like I said, hopefully people are getting more switched onto this as people, things like the European Commission and ICO are getting more strict about this kind of thing when it comes to being really kind of conscious of accessibility and how many people are using the web in different ways.
Yeah.
I think for me, a lot of us kind of think about it as just, will it work with a screen reader? Does it have alt text? Some people don't even
Exactly.
think screen reader. Like,
No.
alt text is where accessibility begins and ends for like many people who are just like, we'll just tick a box and it'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, the actual user experience for other people, I use a screen reader as an example there. Obviously, there are plenty other ways of interacting with websites, but I remember first using a screen reader to view a client's website, and I literally closed my eyes and then like tried to browse in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever used one, Manu, but I've spoken to visually impaired users before as well. A good friend of mine does a lot of like video game streams and stuff like that, and uses a lot of adaptive and accessible technologies for that kind of thing. And I was talking to him about using websites and how do you shop online and all that kind of stuff. And his screen reader is, I think it's at like 700% speed or something like that. He is
Oh,
blazingly fast
wow.
because, and I hadn't factored this in. When you think about it, it is essentially going navigation item 1, homepage, navigation item 2, shop, navigation item 3, about us. Like if every page is read at that speed, you would never get anything done. Like
Yeah, yeah,
imagine
exactly.
you can't like, it's the equivalent of like taking a glance at a page. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And that completely blew my mind because I had, like I said, I'd already used one professionally. I was like, oh, I want to test this on a client's website, but I
yeah,
was doing it at the most basic level. And he was like, that
yeah,
is now not how real humans use this. This is
exactly.
what we actually do. This is a real example of this. And that completely like opened my world to, oh, I thought I was being a good SEO and I was kind of understanding it. And I completely
No,
underestimated
but that's
the
the thing.
layers to it as well.
Yeah, I think as approach, we need to understand essentially we are limited. I think that's the key. So because we must work in silos to be able to do our day-to-day job, we need to use Excel, but then we are also limited because as you said, maybe you might not even realize any blockers other people have because of their impairment. I had the line manager, for example, back in the day. He might listen to us maybe when the episode goes out. You know, it was colorblind for just for some color, so it wasn't huge. But say when we were putting together the classic traffic light slides with green, red, he wasn't able to read and see specific colors.
Yep.
For example, I've been working back in the day, so I've been self-employed for 10 years. Yeah, I told you I had my own agency, so I was doing a bit of everything. So it happened that we built a website for an optician. It's specifically required, but that was like 10 years ago. So I didn't know anything about accessibility back then, but it was requiring essentially to be able to customize. So it was asking us to put like a specific feature, drop down, no, like a switcher to one be able to maximize, enlarge, or minimize the fonts, or also change the colors, the contrast, or different background and different fonts color for the fonts
Mm.
because of people not being able to read. But for me, back in the day, I was learning how to build websites, and then I was learning how to essentially, build different CSSs and be able to switch. And was that the best use case to then try to adapt the website to make it more accessible to people? I think, yeah, fast forward, I think nowadays, because of legislation, but again, the legislation is trying to ensure, is trying to make sure all the content it's usable and be able to reach users. So again, users first at the end of the day, but also the technology is evolving. So now accessibility is also to ensure, the content is read by AI assistants,
Yep.
voice, yeah, as you said, screen reader because of impairment, but it's all around because the technology is also evolving.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you mentioned the colorblind discussion there. We were literally having this conversation in our team meeting, I think it was earlier this week actually, where we, in a lot of our client reporting stuff, positive numbers are green and negative numbers are red. Like,
Of
oh,
course. Yeah,
traffic has gone up, traffic has gone down, conversions have gone up, conversions down, classic stuff, right?
yeah,
Obvious, typical, like you said, traffic lighty kind of stuff.
yeah,
I happened to be, a couple of weeks ago, I happened to be working from a cafe with a good friend of mine who is a developer. And I was having a conversation with one of the account managers, and they're like, I can't really see this green on this background or this red on this background. Like, I know we're going outside of brand guidelines and stuff, but can we make this lighter? Can we make this brighter? Can we increase contrast? Like, what are the
yeah,
options here? And bear in mind, this is like Looker Studio. This isn't even a website.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is
Mm,
accessibility of can I read this report kind of thing.
yeah.
And I showed it to my friend who's a developer, and he is very colorblind. And I was like, I can't tell what colors these are. I assume you can't either. And I just kind of spun my laptop around. He's like, yeah, that's all just one color to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, if I hadn't thought of that, and like you said, when you have an example, a real world person kind of open your eyes to that possibility, like, oh yeah, maybe my website doesn't work, or my reporting or my communication doesn't work for colorblind people, which is
Yeah.
surprisingly common, by the way. A lot of people are colorblind, and it doesn't seem like a big deal until, like you said, they're suddenly misinterpreting a slide or a presentation or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
because the colors and traffic lights are around the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine I was discussing stuff with my manager. I was like, this is bad, this is good. No, this is the same for me. What? Because he wasn't able to exactly red and green.
Exactly.
So
As you can see,
some
everything's
shade.
green and everything's fine. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So okay. Um, yeah, I guess maybe the bridge here is like accepting you cannot know everything because, for example, you're not a dev, you're not a designer, so you cannot be. As we said at the beginning, I like to do a lot of stuff, and when I was self-employed, I was doing a bit of everything. I was using, a lot of creative tools myself, but then we specialize, and also we have limitations. So you can't know everything, and then you need an holistic approach to simply break down a problem, and then see all the factors, and then come up to a solution. With web
mm,
performance is the same. So it's the same. You cannot just be fixated with speed without knowing one what you can do, two the impact, three the business goals. So you need to have the broader picture and discuss with people.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, mate. 100%. Let's wrap things up with a little section I like to call recommendations. And basically, I'll pass it over to you, Manny. What is one actionable thing you'd recommend the listeners and viewers to start doing right now?
In terms of what we discussed, or in general, like be happy in general. But
Entirely up to you, mate. Entirely up to you. If you want to stick with web performance, please do. If you want to talk about something else, we can always talk about
no,
something else.
one thing that I always say also to my direct report, which funny enough, once I've been reported to HR because they misinterpreted, but my recommendation is always use your brain, like not as a yeah, it can be controversial, but meaning people are coming to you because you're human, because essentially you're able to connect the dot and use your brain to understand what's really needed. And now and more clients, businesses can use AI to
Mm,
do the BAU stuff, the executional stuff more and more faster and maybe better. The key is be clever, be smart. So be better and be human, meaning try to always understand, what's really needed, and try to discuss with people. So accept you are limited as we're discussing, and then absorb the knowledge for other people. So essentially try to work as a team, try to really understand what's the real solution to a real problem, and then go for it. And that's what
yeah,
I mean,
that,
like by using your brain. But again, it can be controversial because literally I've been reported once, but I mean, I meant in a good way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that kind of touched on your topic from SEO in 2025, right? It was like use AI, don't let AI use you, or something. I might be paraphrasing you there, but
Yeah,
like you said, things like common sense and using your brain and critical thinking and all that kind of stuff is exactly the kind of thing we need our human brains to do, and to filter all of that stuff out, because as we have learned, LLMs can agree to stuff that is not correct or hallucinate things and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. And this is a much bigger conversation about the
yeah,
world
yeah,
in general, but common sense and all that kind of stuff, I feel, is often something that is taken for granted. And like, are you sure you should make that decision? Like, have you stopped and thought about that for more than 15
Uh,
seconds? Be like, yeah, let's actually have a conversation about this and why that probably isn't a good idea, or maybe it is and we can adjust it or whatever. Like you said, just jumping in without really thinking about something can be a pretty big problem
yeah, very
sometimes.
dangerous, and yeah, yeah, it can be. Yeah, also people, yeah, yeah, it's a way more broad conversation. We may need another hour to this, but I mean, personally, even myself for my private sphere. So me and my partner are also using more and more ChatGPT to
Mm,
maybe ask ChatGPT about an issues we're having, or financial decision, or a medical thing. I have to say, I mean, sometimes you explore maybe scenarios that you might have needed more time to discuss with the doctor, for example. But then again, you need to be critical. You need not to take it for granted, and as the answer, you need to scrutinize it. You need to use your brain to then explore one if it's true, then maybe connect with other people and connect all the stuff. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think this is the key. Let's remember, we will see AI more and more, but we need to be human, meaning we need to be smarter and trying to one connect between each other to absorb what other people can see, can feel, can know, and yeah, and come to a solution.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Totally agree. Could you recommend a tool, piece of software, whatever it is you've been using recently? Preferably one people might not know about. Don't go for the big names. If there's anything cool you might be using recently that you think is worth shouting out.
I don't know. Yeah, I've been sharing some links with you, and I think in terms of sustainability and web performance. So I'm really getting really interested or really fussy maybe about the carbon footprint. There is the webcarbon.net. I shared the link with you, but essentially, I mean, there are plenty of websites where you can actually check, how pitch speed is impacting, the CO2 production of the website, which is interesting to see. So you don't often realize, the amount of, the heavier the page is, the higher the amount of images you have, the more carbon footprint you have. So which is crazy. Um, yeah, I would say to go and check, which tools are there, because you get some crazy insights you don't often realize.
Definitely,
Yeah.
100%. And last thing, doesn't even need to be SEO related. What have you been enjoying recently? I know you're a fellow gamer. I know you're a fellow big movie buff. What you've been watching, what you've been playing recently, what would you recommend me, the listeners, the viewers checking out? Is there anything you've been enjoying recently?
I mean, movie. I watched Minecraft with my kids, and it was
Oh, yeah.
crazy. Yeah, it was good. I mean, yeah. I mean, not super exciting, not super, smart movie, but it's nice, enjoyable. But it's crazy to see. See, my kids already knew all the songs, like the Lava Chicken song. It was really
Yeah.
popular for kids before going to the cinema, because essentially they're using a lot of YouTube nowadays, and so it's crazy how they know stuff before even watching the movie. And I mean, yeah, my oldest is like 7 years old. My youngest is 4. So you think at this age they're already using this technology. But yeah, I would say Minecraft. Yeah, I'll go and watch. And then I'm playing with Baldur's Gate nowadays, which is
Now we're talking, mate. Now we're
yeah,
talking.
yeah, yeah, which is never ending. And then I was a fan of Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 1 back in the day, like 20 years ago
Me, me,
now.
me too,
Yeah,
man. Me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. Baldur's Gate
So
2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Baldur's Gate 1 is what introduced me to like D&D and fantasy and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm right
yeah.
there with you, man. So, follow-up question, what's your character? What's your class? What's your race? Like what we playing as at the moment?
Well,
What's the vibe?
I was also very, very maniac. I was playing in Dungeons and Dragons in my university years, and well, always been a paladin. And
Nice. I
yeah,
love a good paladin.
and I'm getting to the evil path now, because I'm becoming more necromancer, and I always been good when playing role games, and I said, oh, let's go on the evil side. Um, but yeah,
That's always fun. I love I've always enjoyed a hybrid class that does like magic and some
yeah,
attacks as well, like
yeah,
paladin stuff, being able to do both some
healing,
holy magic and
yeah,
also
e-
melee attacks as well.
exactly.
I but I do love a good spellcaster. Like
I know.
I played
Yeah.
I played a necromancer most recently, a couple of years ago now, and it's just so like it seems really dark, but you can get really silly and fun with it as
No,
well. Like
yeah,
when you
it's
create like a familiar, like a bone familiar or a skeleton that like we should probably give him a name, right? It's like, yeah, here's Charles the skeleton, and he's gonna be hanging out with us and all this kind of stuff. Like,
yeah, yeah. No, it's cool because one is so distant to your reality, so it's cool the stuff you
mm,
can do. Then, yeah, a paladin or a fighter is good because you can, directly fight people. But then, yeah, a wizard or necromancer, they stay usually in the background because they're so weak. But it's so amazing what they can do, and we sort a situation just by staying in the back. Um, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, I'm also, reading a lot of mangas and watching a lot of
mm,
animes. I don't know if you're into that, but I'm
I
recently
am, mate. Hit me
okay.
with some recommendations. Let's
Okay.
talk.
Yeah. So
We're
I'm
gonna be here
watching
all day.
I'm watching Solo Leveling nowadays, which is a
Oh,
Korean
nice. Yeah,
anime.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yep,
talking about Necromancer, because the guy essentially he leveled up and now he's got the Necromancer skill. So essentially, I mean, long story short, but it's about a guy that he was very weak at the beginning, but he's the only one that with experience can evolve and upskill. He's the only one in the
yep.
world that essentially can get stronger and stronger. And he reached a level where he can create an army of people he killed previously, and then he's becoming like really crazy. Like alone, he can fight everyone. So yeah,
Nice,
but yeah,
nice. Yeah, I love. What have I been watching recently? What was I watching recently? Dan Dan is back. Do you watch Dan Dan at all?
No, I have to. No, I mean, I went back. I'm rewatching all Naruto, and well, I mean, it's
Oh,
years,
I have never watched Naruto. I've
Really?
never
Oh,
watched it.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's one
mean,
of the ones that I
because I'm pushing
completely
my
missed.
kids. Yeah, I was trying to find a nice anime or cartoon to watch with the kids because I feel now the
Mm.
recent cartoons are missing a plot or story. So I said, let's watch something I used to watch back in the day. And then we started Naruto. I think I'm around episode 200. Like it's a lot. Because I want to watch Boruto, which is the next generation is the son.
The
So
sequel.
far,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's never ending. But also, I'm watching all the One Piece stuff, either on Netflix, but
Oh
I'm a
my,
fan since day one. I've got the mangas. Yeah, it's like 20 years now. Yeah, maybe it's 20 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
So,
just casually tackling Naruto and One Piece at the same time, like two of the longest running
e-
anime and manga.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well,
Your
One Piece
kids will
is
be
still
in their
ongoing.
30s
Naruto,
by the time they
Naruto.
finish.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. When I joke with my partner, I say I don't want to die because if I die now and One Piece is not finished, I will stay
Wow,
in this
yeah.
life as a ghost because I want to see. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, One Piece is I've dipped into it a couple of times. I've never like really I've read more manga than I've seen of the show, but I know like I don't know what Oda is planning on doing, and like is he gonna finish it? Like what's
I
the
mean,
plan here? Like
see, I've been watching and so I've been reading One Piece since
mm.
the very first volume in Italy. Then I started to buy also in English, blah blah blah, and then I've been watching the anime. Uh, so we're approaching the end of One Piece. You
Mm.
know,
Okay.
the manga and the anime. The Netflix series it will take forever because
Okay.
we are far
Yeah.
behind. And I mean, yeah, I think the actors will die before you know they can manage. Um, no, I mean we should approach the last season, the last arc. But
Oh
for
wow.
order, when you say the last arc, for order might be 2 or 3 years still.
I was gonna say
Because
that's a few
because
hundred issues.
there is still I won't go into the detail, but there is still a lot that needs to happen. So yeah,
Because what are we on, like 110 volumes, something like 100? It's well over 100 volumes at this point. It's just like
yeah, which is
absolutely
a
crazy.
1,200 episodes, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, something
No,
like
it's
that.
about if you
Exactly.
want to start from the beginning, it's like important. Literally, you need to plan. I made an estimation once. It's like you need to watch like 10 episodes per day for 4 months, 5 months, like daily. Like it was crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
my god,
No,
yeah.
no. Luckily, I
Maybe
mean,
don't.
yeah.
We're not going to necessarily recommend One Piece to all the listeners, but if you want to go and check it out, listen. If you
I,
want
I
a
would
new
say, I would say. I mean, I love One
commitment to your
Piece.
life,
I've
yeah.
got a lot of One Piece stuff. I mean, but if you want to approach One Piece, start with maybe the Netflix series because it's
Feel like it's a nice
shorter.
little
It's just the
introduction.
beginning, and then yeah, plan it because if you want
Yeah.
to.
I
Yeah.
I was impressed by the Netflix One Piece because I think they've gotten quite a few of them wrong recently. Like I am a huge Cowboy Bebop fan. Like Cowboy is
Oh,
my
yeah,
absolute favorite,
yeah.
and the Netflix Cowboy Bebop was not good.
No, I mean,
But the
but
original
also,
is like a masterpiece in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. No, no. All the one they've been trying to do, like also, I don't know, Dragon Ball, the Zodiac Knight, all the action movie they've been trying to do, they were bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, but no,
well,
no.
it's
I
not
mean,
anime, but
One Piece I
they
was
did the
really
Avatar one
skeptical.
recently as well. Like yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Avatar was bad. Yeah, I was watching the anime. Avatar as the Airbender. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was bad. The movie was so bad. But
yeah,
yeah, I love the anime. So I
yeah.
was
The
watching.
that like Avatar: The Last Airbender by M Night Shyamalan and Dragon Ball Evolution are like legit all-time worst films, like just
Yeah,
absolute
yeah,
dirt
yeah,
worst, bottom of the barrel type
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
how do you keep getting this so wrong?
yeah,
It blows my mind.
yeah. I saw there is also Bleach on Netflix.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to burn that too. So I'm skeptical because I love Bleach.
I grew up reading a lot of Bleach. I was a big Dragon Ball and Bleach reader when I was younger,
Mm.
for sure. And I tried to really enjoy My Hero Academia a little while ago,
Oh,
and I just kind of burnt
you
out
couldn't?
like
No. I
season 4ish when
oh
they're all
wow.
just like hanging out in the city, just doing some crime fighting stuff. I'm like, I want the bigger stuff. Give me the interesting, cool plot stuff. Like, yeah, you know.
Mm. I tried. I watched a couple of episodes, but yeah, no, it didn't. Yeah, excited me. So. Yeah, but because I've got
Fair.
a new Crunchyroll subscription, yeah, I mean, fun fact, my partner came back one of these days and she brought home like a nice big projector. We put it like near our bed. So essentially now in the evening, we just project stuff and we made a Crunchyroll subscription finally. I mean, it's years that I'm trying to, and we're trying to find nice new anime we never watched.
Mm.
That's why we're watching Solo Leveling. I don't know. I have to say, yeah, it's nice, but it's not. It's quite silly. So it's yeah, we are not so excited about that. So we need to find something else, or maybe we go to Berserk and then
Oh
rewatch it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love Berserk, dude. Like that
yeah.
is my again one of my absolute favorites. I've got the big like hardback collected volumes,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
they're amazing. Like I think when it comes to something that feels like not that actually that many people have read or watched, but has
it
influenced
fits a lot.
basically everything you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the amount of times you'll see a Berserk reference in like Dark Souls or all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. Like again,
yeah.
I'm a huge Dark Souls fan and Bloodborne and Elden Ring and all that kind of stuff. Like,
Oh, Elden
oh,
Ring.
that's literally
Yeah,
Guts' sword. Oh, that's literally like that's Griffin. That's this. Like, there's a
yeah,
direct correlation here. Like, that
yeah,
all correlates through. Like, I always find
yeah.
that so funny.
Yeah, there is the new Elden Ring game which is coming out in a few months, I think, and yeah, I want to.
Night Rain's already out. I think it
It's
came out
already
last
out.
week,
Oh,
a couple of weeks ago. I think so. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So I'm missing out. See, I need
yeah.
to play it.
It's the online multiplayer boss
Yeah.
rush battle royale thing. I don't fully understand how it works.
Maybe it's too much. Oh yeah, maybe it's too much. I mean, I've been trying the Fallout. It was like Fallout 64, something like that. There was the
76.
comp set, yeah, 76. So that was the
Yeah.
comp set, like, but it was so bad. No,
Yeah, I
yeah.
tried that as well, man. I'm a huge fan of the original Fallouts 1 and 2
Yes,
and like
yes, yes.
going through and 3 I enjoy 3 and 4 for what they are, you know, like 3
Yeah,
I think was an amazing step forward into first person like Western RPG
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
4 I
Oh,
like,
it's
but
good. Yeah, it's good.
it took a step in New Vegas being obviously a brilliant one as well, but then I could not get into 76. I have tried 2 different times to get into 76. Once
It's
much closer to
boring.
launch, and then
Yeah,
once more recently. And I just a buddy of mine absolutely loves it, and is like it's his favorite game. I'm
really.
like, I wish I
No, I
could play with you,
couldn't. I
dude,
mean,
but I
I
don't, you
tried. I tried to give it time. I was going around, but I mean, what's the point? It's so useless. I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
maybe if you play with other
Anyway,
people eventually. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure we
We
can
can
talk
go
for
for
another
hours.
hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, before we do get carried away with more video game stuff, where can people follow you, man? And where is the best place to keep up with what you're doing in SEO, all your speaking engagements, all that good stuff?
I guess stay tuned. I mean, if follow me on LinkedIn. I think is the easiest one. Then I'm trying to post more videos on my YouTube channel as well. I'm on X/Twitter, and also as we were discussing, also Jack, I'm trying to launch my own podcast when I have time because I'm always busy. I have to manage, the top hit. I would say LinkedIn as first point, and then yeah, stay tuned. Look for me around.
Nice. Stay tuned for the podcast. Like I said, go and follow me. I've been following you for a little while, and it's been really, really cool to finally sit down and have a conversation with you and get nerdy about SEO, anime, and everything else in between.
Yeah, exactly, and more.
And more, and more. Thanks so much, man. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you once again to Manuel for joining me and having a really interesting conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you to you for watching or listening, wherever you're watching or listening. And of course, I'll be back next week and over the next couple of weeks with more fantastic guests and topics. And towards the end of the month, it will be the live podcast from Brighton. So if you're going to Brighton SEO, we are doing a live podcast collaboration with the one and only SEO Mindset duo of Sarah and Tasmin, the same as we've been doing. I think it's the 6th one we've done now. We'll be talking all about social health and how that can be key to your career success. That's basically actually who you're friends with, who you're working with, your mentors, your mentees, your colleagues, your peers, your communities that you're a part of, and how much that can affect your career. We're going to dive into that on Wednesday, the 22nd of October, and it's basically the night before the main Brighton SEO conference. So if you're already in Brighton, going to Brighton SEO, you can come along for a lovely pre-conference event with free drinks, free food, and a live podcast for you to enjoy as well. I'll put a link for that in the show notes. There's an Eventbrite. Tickets are free. You can come and join us there. And I'll actually be speaking on Thursday, the 23rd as well, at 3:20 p.m. in Auditorium 1. So if you want to come and see me talk about basically what I think the future of monetization and content strategies will be for content creators and publishers, and how that has shifted and why that has to change, come and join me. Like I said, Auditorium 1, if you're going to Brighton SEO at 3:20 p.m. on Thursday, the 23rd of October, and I'll see you there. In the meantime, I'm also training for my MMA fight. I'll put a link if you want to go and support me there. I have quite a lot of bruises and stuff at the moment from a lot of kickboxing training, but I think it's going well. And yeah, 21st of November, I will be doing an MMA fight. I'll be stepping into a cage for charity and taking on someone else, and we'll find out how it goes. Fingers crossed, right? Anyway, without any further ado, thank you so much once again. I'll be back next week, and in the meantime, have a lovely week.